Hello YouTube, it's your friend Hollingsworth here with another great video. This time, this is the series of history in different countries in the states and towns. So on this history lesson, we are going to look into the history of England. So before we get into this, we're going to listen to some music. And then I'll be talking through the history of England. But before I do that, I'm taking no credit of this finding that I found. This is on Wikipedia. So if you guys like that, look it up. Frankenopity. So let's get into the video. So we're talking about the history of England. So the England is the largest of the countries that today make up the United Kingdom. The name England comes from the Anglo-Saxons who arrived in the 5th century. The territory of England has been united as one country since the 10th century. This article is about the history of that territory until 1707, when Britain, England, Wales was joined with Scotland to make Great Britain. England before English. Archaeology shows that people came to southern England long before the rest of British Isles, probably because of the friendly climate between and during the Ice Age of long ago. Julius Caesar invaded what is now England in 55 and 54 BC. And he wrote in Dialogo that there was many tribes there, who we will very similar to other Celtic tribes in Europe. Coins and later Roman historicals have given us the names of some of the rulers of the tribes and what they did for hundreds of years. What is now England was a Roman province. Britannia. The Romans later gave up on the provinces and left the Celtic people on their own. As the Roman Empire began to fall apart, the influence of the Romans meant that the territory of England had already experienced united before the Anglo-Saxons arrived. So, the England before the English is talking about Julius Caesar's time. That what is now England, that the Romans took over from Julius Caesar for the province. So the province, they believe, was not enough in the Roman Empire. So that began to fall apart to influence the Romans, the Roman territory of England. So before the Saxons arrived, the Romans banded the province of England. So when Anglo-Saxons arrived, this is talking about Anglo-Saxons England now. So let's see what this means apart. Okay. After Romans left around 410, England was settled by waves of Germanic people, Anglo-Saxons. Germans, together with large number of Frisian Saxons from northern Germany and Angles from southern Denmark, often called Anglo-Saxons, began to invade Britain in the mid-5th century. They were tribes led by rural chiefs, and they settled on the eastern and southern shores. Lies of human bodies found at an ancient cemetery near Aberdeen, England, shows that Saxons immigrated and native Britons lived side by side. The Roman British population, the Britons, was assimilate the settlement or invasions of England. It's called the Saxons Conquest, or the Anglo-Saxons or English Conquest. From the 4th century AD, many Britons left to cross the English Channel from Wales, Cornwall, and southern Britain, and started to settle the western part of Gala, Amico, where they started a new nation. Britain, the Britons gave the new country its name in the Breton language, Breshung, a sister language to Welsh Quanso. The name Brittany, from the word Britain, arose at this time to tell the new Britain apart from Great Britain. Breshung is still spoken in Britain today. Now we're talking about Vikings. The one Viking is in this article here with raid England. So here we go. Begin with the raid in 793 on the monastery at Hollingsworth. Vikings made many raids on England. After a time of raids, the Vikings also began to settle in England and to trade, eventually controlling an area called Danelaw. From the late 9th century, one Viking settlement was at York, called Jorvik. By the Vikings, Viking rule left traces in English language. Because Old English was already related to Old Norse, many Norse words began to use in English at this time. So that was it about the Vikings. So now we're in England in the Middle Ages. The defeat of King Arnold Godwinson at the Battle of Hastings in 1066 against Duke William II of Normandy, later called William I of England, and the following Norman conquest of England, caused important changes in the history of Britain. William ordered the Domesday Book to be written. This was a survey of the entire population of the lands and property to help in collecting taxes. William also ruled Normandy, then a powerful duchy in France. William and his nobles spoke and held court in Anglo-Norman in Normandy as well as England. The use of Anglo-Norman language by the Austrians was kept up for centuries and had a great influence on the development of English. In the Middle Ages was a time of war. Civil war rebels from time to time, and many plots among the nobles and royalties. England had more than enough salaries, dairy products, and beef and mutton. The national and international income was based on the wool trade, where wool from northern England was sold to the Texan merchants of Flanders to make into cloth. Medieval foreign policy was also shaped by relations with Flemish clothing businesses. An English clothes businesses was developed in the 5th century, allowing the English also to become wealthy. In the region of Henry II, the king got some power back from Lorena and the church. Henry's successors, Richard I the Lionheart, took part in the Third Crusade and defended his French territories against Philip II of France. His younger brother John, who followed him as a king, was not so lucky. He lost Normandy, and many other French territories. In 1215, the Barons led an army rebellion and forced him to sign the Magna Carta, which put legal limits on the king's personal power. The regime of Edward I, 1272 and 1307, was rather successful. Edward strengthened the powers of his government and called the first English Parliament. He reconquered Wales. His son Edward II lost the battle of Bannockburn against Scotland. The Black Death, expected that spread over all of Europe and parts of Asia, arrived in England in 1349 and killed perhaps up to a third of the populations. Edward III gave land to powerful nobles families, including many people with royal blood. Because land was like power on these days, some power men could now try to claim the crown. Now we're talking about total England. The Wars of Roses ended with the victory of Henry Tudor, who became King Henry the Seventh of England at the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485, where the Yorkshire's King Richard III was killed. His son Henry the Seventh split with the Roman Catholic Church over a question of his divorce from Catherine of England. Through his religion's positive was not entire Protestantism. This led to the Church of England breaking from the Roman Catholic Church. There followed a time of great religion and politic troubles, and the English Reformation. Henry VII had 3 children, all of whom would wear the crown. The first regent was Edward VI of England. Although he was intelligent, he was only a boy of 10 when he took the throne at 1547. When Edward VI died of tuberculosis in 1553, Mary I took the throne when crowds appeared for her in London, which people at the time said was the largest show of affection for the Tudor monarchs. Mary, a loyal Catholic who had been influenced lately by the Catholic King of Spain and Holy Roman Empire Charles V, tried to get the country back to Catholicism. This led to 274 burnings of Protestants and much hatred from her people. Mary lost callously the last English process on the continent and became even more unpopular, except among Catholics at the end of her regime. The regime of Elizabeth returned a sort of order to England in 1558. The regime's question had divided the country since Henry the Eighth was put in rest of Elizabethan religion statement, which set up the Church of England in much the same form it has today. The slave trade had made Britain a major economic power, beginning with Elizabeth, who gave John Hawkins permission to start trading in 1562. The government of Elizabeth was more peaceful, in part from the revolt of the Northern Earls in 1569. She was able to lessen the power of the old nobles and expand the power of her government. One of the most famous events in England's military history was in 1588 when the Spanish Armada lost against the English Navy. Commanded by Sir Francis Drake, Elizabeth's government did much to make her government stronger, to make common law and missions more effective through England. In all, the Tudor period is seen as an important one, leading to many questions that would have to be answered. In the next century, during the English Civil War, there were questions of how much power the monarch and parliament should have, and how much one should control the other. So in the next time period, they had the Stuarts and the Civil War. So Elizabeth died without children who could take the throne after her. Her closest male Protestant relative was the King of Scotland, James VI, of the House of Stuarts. So he became James I of England, the first king of the entire island of Great Britain, although he ruled England and Scotland as separate countries. The English Civil War began in 1642 mainly because of the conflict between James' son Charles and Parliament, the defeat of Loyalty army by the new modern army of Parliament. At the Battle of Naseby in June 1645 destroyed most of the king's forces. The capture and trial of Charles led to his beheaded in January 1649 at Whitehall Gate in London. The Republic was declared and Oliver Cromwell became the Lord Protector in 1653. After he died, his son Richard Cromwell followed him in office, but soon quit the monarchy, was returned in the 1660s. After England had time of anarchy with King Charles II again in London. In 1665, London was hit with the plague, and then in 1666, the capital was burned for 5 days by the Great Fire, destroying around 15,000 buildings. In 1689, the Dutch Protestant William of Orange replaced the Catholic King James II in what is called the Glory Revolution. However, in Scotland and Ireland, the Catholic loyalty to James II were not so happy, and series of blood revolt followed. These rebellions continued into the mid-18th century when Charles Edward Stuart was defeated at the Battle of Culloden in 1746. The first act of union made Scotland, England, Wales into one country. The history of England after this 1707 Act is part of the Great Britain history. So that was all the history of England. I'll look some more to see what kind of great history video of history, towns, or state, or country I can find for the next video. But this video is caught up about history of England between the England era, the Tudor era, and the Stuarts era. So if you like this video, please hit that big like. Please subscribe for some more content. And please, you can comment about anything. And thank you for watching. See you next time on the History with Rye Hollingsworth. We go through the states, the countries, the towns, anything that has history. I will review it on my channel. Please subscribe, and see you guys next time.